Hello and welcome. The Individuals with Disability Act ensures that children with disabilities have access to free and appropriate public education, including special education and related services that are needed to prepare them for a productive and engaging life. In this module, we'll talk about Part C, which covers early intervention services. Part C serves infants and toddlers with disabilities, meaning individuals under 3, who have developmental delays as measured by appropriate diagnostic instruments and procedures in one or more of the following areas: cognitive, physical, communication, social or emotional, or adaptive development. It also serves at-risk infants or toddlers with diagnosed mental or physical conditions that have a high probability of impacting development, even if it hasn't been an issue yet. The law covers children with disabilities who are eligible and previously received services until they become school-aged to include an educational component that promotes school readiness, pre-literacy skills, language, and numeracy skills. Remember, the overarching goal of IDEA is to maximize access and success for children with disabilities in school. So even in the early intervention stages, there still has to be some focus on academic-related skills. Finally, there is a clause in Part C that states children who have experienced trauma in the form of family violence will automatically be referred for early intervention services. According to IDEA, early intervention services refers to those that are provided under public supervision and provided at no cost, except where state and federal law provides a system of payments by families. Could include a schedule of sliding fees, but a system of payments that are designed to meet the developmental needs of infant or toddler with disabilities as defined by their individualized family service plan team. They can address any of those areas we talked about before: the physical, cognitive, communication, social, emotional, or adaptive development. Services are required by law to meet the standards of the state in which they're provided. Under IDEA, early intervention services have to cover all areas. Feel free to pause here or screenshot if you need to. I'm not going to cover every single one listed here, but these are all the possible intervention services under the law. I would like to note, though, that the law is very clear about medical services in particular. Medical services can only be provided through Part C for evaluation purposes, not for treatment purposes. Just the same goes for Part B when we're talking about children being served in schools. Transportation and related service costs covers anything that's necessary to enable an infant or toddler and their family to receive other services. So, for example, if a family doesn't have independent transportation to an audiology clinic, IDEA would fund some sort of transportation service to get them there. So who provides all these services? They're provided by quite a wide variety of specialized professionals. Could be special educators, speech language pathologists, audiologists, occupational therapists, physical therapists, and social workers. Others might include registered dietitians, vision specialists, orientation and mobility specialists, and pediatricians. IDEA states that all of the professionals should provide services in the most natural environments possible, including home and community settings that the child is already involved in. Furthermore, they have to follow what is written in the child's Individualized Family Service Plan, or IFSP. IDEA requires that every state develops a program that includes all of the components you see listed here. First, each state has to clearly define what actually qualifies as a developmental delay to ensure that there's no confusion later when trying to determine whether or not a child is going to qualify for services. The state system must also ensure a timely and multidisciplinary evaluation of functioning. This is really intended to identify all areas of disability to ensure the child gets every service they need. Based on the results, an individualized family service plan will be developed. The law requires that each state includes policies that ensure all children with disabilities and their families have access to evidence-based early intervention services. Additionally, they have to maintain a child find system that basically helps identify all children with disabilities, as well as maintain a central directory, including service providers and additional resources for parents. IDEA describes that the public awareness program needs to target pediatricians, hospitals, and others who are likely to come in contact with these children in need. Information regarding the services should be regularly disseminated through these channels just to help ensure that we are reaching all children that need to be reached and providing all services that they deserve. Now, the statewide system also has to include personnel development programs to train paraprofessionals and primary referral sources. The program should focus on implementing strategies and activities that are related to the recruitment and retention of early education providers. Unfortunately, this is a setting where turnover is fairly common, so the state should be doing everything they can to ensure that people succeed and also enjoy these positions. That's why the program also has to include provisions that promote full and appropriate preparation of early intervention providers. These providers should be trained in transition services too, to help ensure smooth transition of these kiddos from early intervention onto preschool or kindergarten. The law includes two optional components for the statewide program, specifically with this personnel development program. It might be useful for states to include provisions for training personnel to work in rural as well as inner city areas. Typically, these are the areas where we will need more providers. And it really just, I think it's optional because it depends on where you're living, whether or not this is going to be applicable. It may also be beneficial to include trainings related to emotional and social development of young children. Not only is this really important for relationships and friendships later on in life, but it's also a really important part of school readiness. School actually demands quite a lot from kids. They're expected to regulate their emotions, follow directions, develop their own friendships, interact with adults, and participate fully throughout the day. It can be really hard for any child as those parts of the brain aren't fully developed yet. So it's so important that we provide the additional support for those kids who need it. Regardless of whether states include these components or not, IDEA states that they must have policies in place to ensure that service professionals are appropriately trained and qualified, which might include requirements like certifications, licenses, registrations, etc. Under IDEA, the statewide system should include a lead agency as designated by the governor that has a variety of responsibilities. I'm only going to cover the ones that I feel like are most pertinent to you as parents, though the law spells out many more responsibilities. First, Part C says that the lead agency is responsible for the supervision and monitoring of programs and activities that are used to carry out the subchapter. They're also responsible for identifying and coordinating all available resources from all sources. Therefore, this is an agency that might be a good resource for you if you're looking to get connected to more service providers in your area. The law goes on to say that the lead agency is responsible for ensuring timely delivery of services, pending resolution of any disputes. So you shouldn't be waiting weeks on end to get the ball rolling with evaluations and services. Once your child is identified, the system is designed to ensure that they start receiving support as quickly as possible and through any discrepancies that may occur. Lastly, IDEA says that this agency must ensure early intervention services are provided in the most natural environment possible. We already kind of talked about this, but now we're placing responsibility on somebody for actually monitoring it. So we got through a good part of chunk C, a good part of Part C, rather, of IDEA. Specifically, we talked about what early intervention services actually means, who it applies to, and requirements for the statewide programs. In the next video, we'll dive more into service delivery in terms of what early intervention versus preschool looks like, as well as talk more about IFSPs. Thank you for joining me. See you soon.